Big stories. Just it's been developing too. It's like new things have been coming out kind of every hour, it seems, about this. But essentially, players, there's a group. It's a conference call tonight with 150 reportedly to 200 players, led by Kyrie Irving, and it is about the players questioning whether or not they really want to play. And not saying they don't, but just they want their voices heard. They were upset that it seemed like only the superstars, Chris Paul, LeBron, were being heard, and their voices weren't being heard when all these decisions were made to come back and play. And so they want to, get a hearing. And I've heard, Rob, and as the report said, some of the players are feeling like, look, is this the time for us to be playing ball? We're looking at a massive movement that could change racism, eliminate racism, or, it certainly lessen it in this country. We don't want to distract from that, or we don't want to just be feeling like we're a distraction and we're entertaining people. Because this is a serious moment, and they're wondering, is that the right thing to do? Others are concerned about the bubble. Is it safe? Do I want to be constrained in there for 2 months, 2.5, 3 months, whatever it may be? How do the optics of that look when, we're going through this racial unrest and you're locking up, not locking up, but, essentially 75% of your league is African-American and they're being sequestered in this bubble. How does that look? And then there's obviously the money consideration. And I do think, Rob, from talking to people, I'm getting every indication they're playing because, and you've seen some reports about this too, the players are talking to one another about, look, you have to understand what's on the line. If we don't play this year and the league loses $1 billion, that's going to affect the salary cap and obviously going to affect our salaries going forward. It takes away a lot of our leverage in the collective bargaining agreements that are coming up, things like that. And maybe some players are like, you know what? So be it. Chris Paul was talking about that. He didn't say that was his attitude, but he said some players might feel that way. This is more important than the money. So a lot to digest there. But, Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you remember because we talked about it, and I was always skeptical, Chris, of the bubble. Remember I just said you're not going to make love to your wife or hug your children. You can't tell them that they're going to be safe and that they won't get it if they're in that environment. You're talking about keeping them away from fans, but what about the people who are serving them food and taking care of all the other stuff and coming into their rooms, Chris, and cleaning their rooms, and all the other stuff.
Even
that
when
has
the
to
players
go.
aren't there, because they're saying they won't clean the rooms or be in the rooms when players are there.
Doesn't
but
matter.
Still, it would seem like you could still get it. And it looks like the people who are going to be serving, like working at Disney World during this, they're not going to be sequestered. They're not in the bubble.
And they're not going to be tested every day.
Right.
Like you could say, oh, yeah, just test everybody. Test costs money. Like it's not like it's right. It's a shrimp bar, Chris, and it's endless shrimp. Where you could just have as many as you want.
No, you're right.
It costs money, so you just can't test everybody who walks into the room. So my point is, when you're talking about the health concerns and not doing it, I totally get it. Anybody who doesn't feel comfortable, I don't have an issue with, Chris. The distraction part and being an entertainer, that's something that's a little deeper. That is what you do for a living. Most people have to go to work. Say black people, I'm just going to give you an example. You're a black cop. You live this life, Chris, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't go to work because of it. That's your job. Am I right? Like there's a certain degree. You could be all with the cause, but as a cop, black cop, you still need to go to work. You still need to do what you have to do. So that part, if you're really strong about it and they're in agreement as a group that they don't want to do it, because I can respect that, Chris. But I'm more about the bubble and what they're trying to put them in such an unusual situation, which takes them away from. And we had Eddie House on, Chris, who said the same thing at first when they were talking about they couldn't see anybody and couldn't move around or do anything. Right. And he said you could forget that. I guarantee you they'll sneak girls in or whatever it is. You know what I mean? They're into that. There's no way that they're going to go dry for 3 months. It's just not happening.
Well, and you can have after the first round of the playoffs, you can have 3 family members or I guess friends, come and stay with you. So they'll be able to have a girlfriend or a wife, and kids come stay with them.
Or side piece or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. But, if any of the workers at Disney World are attractive to these players, then don't think they won't be, you know what I mean? Like hitting on them and hanging with them and all that stuff. Let's just keep it real. So
Dr. J had a baby with a sports writer, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. From the New York Times.
Was she from the Times?
She was from New York Times. Yep.
Wow.
And remember, her daughter was a great tennis player.
That's right.
I think it was Amanda Stevenson.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah. So, it's something to think about. But this is why, too, one of the other reasons why the people I've talked to are confident that they're going to play, at least as of now, is that they're going to the 17 players per team. So if there are a few guys on the team that don't want to play, then there, you know it, Rob. There's guys from the G League, two-way players that, go back and forth from the NBA to the G League, guys that may have never gotten an opportunity yet in the NBA that will gladly take those spots. So that's another thing. And the other thing is this. Some of the guys are only going to be there maybe a month, because you're going to be there for your 8 regular season games. Some of the teams will leave after that. Some of the teams will play a round, maybe or 2, and then they'll be done. So it's different for different guys.
But the only thing I'm going to say is about there'll be 17, and if guys don't want to play, if you're not getting the stars playing, Chris, then it's going to be a bogus championship. If Kawhi Leonard and Paul George don't want to play for the Clippers, I'm sorry. There's no way I could look at that championship the same way.
What?
Yep.
I bet you if LeBron got sick, you'd look at it the same way.
No,
and
I
Kawhi
wouldn't.
won.
No, I wouldn't. I said, you know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
If stars weren't
messing
playing
around.
is what I'm talking about.
Well,
right?
From everything I'm hearing, the stars want to play. Like the stars on the teams that have a legit shot, from what I'm being told, the Lakers are all in. And obviously they're following their leader, LeBron. The Clippers are all in from what I'm hearing. The Rockets with Harden and Westbrook, they're all in. Now, George Hill, he did say that he had a very emotional and powerful video call with some reporters. And he was saying that because he's seen people victimized by police brutality and things like that. And he was saying right now it's hard for him to think about. He couldn't care less about basketball. He said, like you said, I'm a professional. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to play. But this is what's really on my mind.
Right.
And I think this is the thing, Rob. I understand why the superstars may feel differently than the role players. Or let's say the teams that don't have a shot. But even on the teams that do have a shot, for LeBron James, a championship is legacy changing, right? For Kawhi Leonard, a Giannis, a James Harden, all these guys, you win, your legacy is changed, right? Even if you're on a contender, but you're a role player, is it changing Alex Caruso's legacy if he wins this ring? Is it changing George Hill's legacy?
Nope.
No, it's nice. I'm sure he wants a ring, but nobody's going to think any differently of George Hill if he wins this championship. So I think there's all of that to consider for these guys too. It's interesting because you got 400 players, all of different levels, right? And this means different things for different players. The implications are different.
All right, 877-99 on Fox.
877-996-6369. Here's the question we want to hear from you listeners, or we want answered from you listeners. Would you think differently of the players if they don't play? Would you think differently of the players, or maybe some of the individuals, maybe they do play, but some individuals sit out? Would you think differently of guys that decide not to play, or even if the league decides not to play?
All right, let's start with Phil in New York. You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Phil?
Howdy. My opinion absolutely would change, but it'd be for the better. These guys are showing that they're human, right? That the world outside of their little jobs, in this case playing a game, is bigger, it's more important, and they're making the same decisions that I am. Do I care about my wife, my house, our livelihood, or, in the context of it's a game, or what's going on in the real world? And in some part, maybe they are part of the problem, making money for these huge corporations. And they're choosing to say, hey, there's bigger things in my bank account, and I want to take care of my family, be with them first and foremost. And that, to me, that makes them human, and that makes them more relatable to me in my life, making the same decisions, and I applaud them for it.
I can't
That's a
argue
good
with
call.
you, Phil.
Right.
I just, especially when you talk about family and whatnot and making a decision. I mean, we all have to make tough decisions every day, Chris, right? You have a family, you have 2 daughters, and what you're doing, and we all do. I mean, so I can't argue with Phil. What about Ben?
Players get a raw deal because everybody think, they don't focus on the owners being about money. We tend to focus on the players being about money. Yeah. They would be sacrificing money in this instance if they decide not to play.
And it's human nature. We as people, Chris, we more relate to the people who, even though they make millions of dollars, people who
Right, we see them all the time.
We see them.
Right.
We all play basketball, right? So we feel like that, but we haven't owned a multi-billion-dollar company, so it's hard to relate and even think of yourself in that vein. I think that's why. Ben in Milwaukee, you're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Ben?
Good evening, guys. Love the show. Love the banter.
Thank you.
I've been taking you guys are good. I know I've got 20 years as a radio guy, so I know good radio, and you guys are it.
Thank you.
There is nothing about this season that won't be odd if the championship is given to Milwaukee, LA, or anybody else. It's a tainted season already. So even if they come back and play, and the expectation is, if you go back to the season when it was humming along, it was going to be the Clippers or the Lakers and the Bucks most likely in the finals. Now,
that's what
no matter
we picked,
what happens,
yep.
But now, if that happens, the season still didn't. They got a long break, and it won't be as many games, and it won't be played in the normal way. And let's say somebody who isn't the top 4 teams wins the championship. You'll never buy it as a real championship. Now, I'm an SOJ. I'm a student of Jordan. I grew up in Chicago. Loved seeing the championships. And none of those were tainted. None of what LeBron's done so far, what Kobe did, were tainted. This season, unfortunately, with a stoppage, it's tainted for the mere fact they've stopped, no matter how it comes back.
That's a fair call.
Yeah,
Ben,
I mean,
some people will look at it that way. Chris, I've been joking around. I dub it the Mickey Mouse Championship because it's going to be one in Orlando. But there'll be some people go, I'm not with it.
No, look, you and I, we don't put asterisks on championships, and I think that's fair. But there is no way any of us initially, like when it's all said and done, for the next few years, it's going to feel weird. We're going to say, yeah, it was that strange season, the COVID championship, whatever. Now, I think years down the line, it'll be recognized as legitimate, and we if LeBron wins it 5-6 years from now, nobody will say LeBron's got 3.5 titles. We'll say 4. But initially, there's no doubt, right? Like, how can you not think of this as a strange season?
No, I totally agree. What about Anthony in Maryland? You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Anthony?
Hi, how you doing, Rob and Chris?
What's
doing
up,
good.
Man?
First of all, quick shout out to Rob G. Finally got me on the show. Took months, but he finally did it.
Oh wow, you've been trying for months to get
listening?
on.
Oh yeah. You've been calling in and haven't been able to get through. Okay. Well, good to have you, man.
Yeah. So, first of all, when I was listening to all the reports and all that, I initially thought the role players, would actually want to come back for the paycheck. I actually thought since they were making less, they would actually want to come back. But I guess now things are shifting, and now that they're seeing how the bubble and the impacts of being in the bubble now and how they're shielded from their families, I guess now that's having an effect on them. And I remember a few weeks ago with Patrick Beverley, too. He was on that Scott Van Pelt show. And I think what he was talking about at the time, now we're seeing that come into fruition with all these players now having more to say about the season and with having reluctance about playing and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, and I also think, Rob, beyond the Black Lives Matter movement and all that, I think some guys just, nobody's really gone back to work yet. You know what I mean? We're working, but we're doing it from home for the most part.
No, and that's fair. And I think
even if it wasn't a movement, you know what I'm saying? It's still while we the ones have to be the guinea pigs and be, not social distance and play.
But I was funny. I was talking to somebody too, Chris, and they were talking about that with the numbers. Because people are not back to work, that enhanced the movement. Do you know what I mean? Normally you have to be at work. And it allowed people to finally maybe express themselves and not have to go to work. Let's squeeze one more in if we can. Marty in Kentucky, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Marty?
What's up, fellas? Chris, I hope you got your life jacket on. You're not swimming. You're not drowning in a pool of hypocrisy from Rob over there. I cannot believe you said that if Kawhi and Paul George didn't play, that you wouldn't feel the same about the championship. And that's 365 days after. 365 days, because last year it was June 14th that you sit up there and you sang the Canadian national anthem.
That's right. Tell him, Marty.
Because after Golden State lost with two of their best players injured, you didn't have a problem with that. It was 365 right. Because that was June 14th, and this was a leap year, so we had extra
What
days.
are you talking about, Marty? What? Marty, what?
1 day off of a year.
All we need is River to tell him off.
Hey, Marty, if you keep it up, I'm going to come down to Kentucky and take down one of those Confederate generals' statues down there, all right? So don't mess with me.
You're going to have to get down here quick because it looks like they're going down.
They're going anyway, right?
I was going to say, Marty, they're going down, aren't they?
Yeah, now, as far as these players that don't want to play, if they play for a contender, I will think less of them as a competitor because I'm one of those guys that's all about competitors. I love Michael Jordan, and I feel like even if it's on what's going on in society, you don't want to draw attention away from that. If you're right there in the title hunt, you can be on a platform to draw attention to it. Yeah, that's what LeBron will do,
Right.
No, that's a good point.
That's good.
That's a good point.
And Rob tried to change the subject, but all I can say is the mid-boat strikes again. The most inconsistent brother of all time. Thank you for calling him out, Marty. We're going to rack that.
Marty, you have some nerve, man.
Rack
Look at
him.
that. Your son River's probably looking at the phone saying, Dad, how could you? What's wrong with you, Dad? Thanks, River. Right. River had my back.
Must be crazy.
Rob Parker.
What was that? River said what?
River's on my side. River's joining the big three. It sounds like Michael Jordan has finally realized
what'd you do?
The error of his ways, Rob.
Wait a minute. Let me hear that again.
Rob Parker. We got FS1 NBA analyst Ric Bucher coming up right now on the Discover Card Celebrity Hotline. Get your free credit scorecard today. Even if you're not a Discover customer, it includes your FICO credit score, and checking your scorecard will not hurt your credit. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply. Rick, welcome to the Odd Couple, brother.
Good to be with you, gentlemen. How we doing on this fine Friday?
We are great. We are great. Now, look, let's just cut to the chase. Is the NBA season in jeopardy?
No. This is a how we called the Last Dance a Michael Jordan production. I would call this story a Kyrie Irving production.
Wow.
I don't want to say that this is in the realm of him trying to convince guys that the earth is flat, but it's in the same zip code in terms of, from what I've heard, there was already a call. And like, and this is where I don't know where the numbers are in terms of, I'm sure there are some guys that agree with Kyrie, but there are, from what I understand, there are more who have tried to tell Kyrie, look, if we don't play, then the owners are going to blow this thing up, and they are going to basically pull the plug on this CBA, and we are going to have to negotiate a new CBA. And I assure you that not only are guys going to lose the money that they have coming this season, but that the money moving forward is going to be drastically different. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I guarantee you that the owners on some level are champing at the bit. As much as they want to come back and play, they don't want to have to give back the TV money or their advertising money or any of that. I assure you that there are owners that are not happy with the fact that players, the top players, are now making so much money that they unilaterally can decide, I'll take less, or I'll do this, or the money's gotten so exorbitant that the top players have an authority and a control that they've never had before. And the owners, at least some owners, are uncomfortable with that idea because they now have to share the power. And I guarantee you they'd love to get that power back.
But, Rick, I got to push back on your response, only from this standpoint. And you could, laugh at Kyrie and the world's flat or whatever, but some of the concerns are real with the COVID, what they have to do in order to play, to be away from their wives and
Sure.
their children. I mean, I get it. It's easy to make fun of Kyrie, but I think some of those concerns, and it's not just him. Chris, who was the other one you said who had the emotional? Well, it was
George Hill.
George Hill, but there's some other issues there, and I think your response is a little flip for what you're asking people to do during what's going on with the pandemic and the protest.
Well, let's be clear. I'm not saying that the hardship of doing this is not on the players. For sure it is. And if this is simply a negotiating ploy to loosen the restrictions on the bubble, because I think that's the most uncomfortable thing that guys are looking at, is we all have to go in this bubble. We have to spend a month getting ready to play what? For some of us, it may be a total of 8 games. So we're going to spend a month and a half to play 8 games that are somewhat meaningless in the big picture. And even those guys that are going to the end, so we're going to be in this bubble. We're going to be in this bubble essentially for 3 months to win a championship. Once you get close to that and you begin to realize what that means, I understand the reluctance to do that. What Adam Silver is trying to do, though, is he's trying to balance the financial realities of the league while protecting the health of the players. So you can't have it both ways. You can't argue that we're concerned about the health, like as players, we're concerned that you're putting our health at risk. But you know what? We don't want to be in this bubble. We want the freedom to come and go. Well, which is it? What is it? Are you uncomfortable with the fact that you're going to be playing, or are you uncomfortable with the fact that you're going to be in a bubble? And the truth of the matter is that if they don't resume play, then things are going, like, there's no guarantee that you're going to have next season start on time, because you're going to have to be negotiating everything. And who's to say we're going to have a vaccine in place and anything's going to be different next December, appreciably different than it is right now? I'm not saying it's not a hardship on the players, but if you take a step back and you look at the realities of the situation, they need to find a way to be able to resume play in order for the league to function, not just now, but next season. And that's just the harsh reality of it. And players always get the short stick. But in this case, the alternative is the unknown in terms of when you are going to play again. Because it's not like, you shut it down now and you're guaranteed to be starting next December.
Rick, one thing they're also saying is that if you test positive for COVID, you're out, right? You're out for the rest of the...
I thought they were going to quarantine you. You're out in terms of being able to play.
Right, but I mean,
like 10 days or whatever.
Is it only for 10 days or is it for the rest of the quote unquote season?
No, my understanding was it was a limited time that they would.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I had thought the same thing, that it would be 10 days, but then I saw people saying if you test positive, you're done for the rest of the year, which didn't make sense to me, because it was like, what if LeBron gets it in the fourth game of the season, but he'll be back in the second round, but he's not going to be able to play? Okay, so that's what I figured. But let me ask you this. I feel like with Kyrie leading this thing, and we got about 2 minutes, with Kyrie, if he's leading this kind of charge, if you will, if he's leading it on the grounds of, hey, we need to stand up, as black men, this is a time of change in our country, we don't want to be entertaining, that's one thing. But if he's standing up on the basis of the bubble, the COVID-19 or something like that, I don't think he'd be the one to, he's really should be the one leading that charge, because he's not playing it anyway.
Yeah. Well, that is the part that's the curious part, is that he's not playing. So where he is on this, and when it comes
isn't he a part of the executive?
He is, which is interesting that he's taking this approach. I mean, what do you make of that, Rick? Because he's the executive VP or VP
right,
of the.
That's what I'm saying. He's a part of the union, isn't he?
But why didn't he voice this? It's almost like it seems like he's waging a mutiny potentially.
Without question, because they've already had this conversation with the players' union had already come to an understanding that they were going to go forward with this. Now, that was prior to the death of George Floyd. So. But I guess for me, the platform and the ability to speak is far greater if you are playing than if you're not playing. I understand the issue with the idea that that the league is predominantly black and players are going back to work and they're suffering the hardship. I guess I can see that argument. Look, this is the truth of the matter for me. And it goes to whether the four guys standing up at the ESPYs or whether all the protests that we have. I mean, the bottom line is that if something is going to change, this is the very tip of the iceberg. Whether guys come back and play or don't play, it's a matter of we need to vote the right people into office. We need to clean up our law enforcement. We have to have a complete social reset in our perspective in race relations in this country and our history in this country, and face facts about where we've been and where we are. And that's what's going to be most important. All of this other stuff they're great statements, but they're nothing more than that. The action has not happened yet.
Rick, good stuff.
Rick.
That's Rick Bucher,
Thank you,
Bleacher
buddy.
Report, senior
Appreciate
NBA
it.
writer, FS1 NBA.